My friends, welcome to a special episode of You Are the Magic. Now, you could say that all the episodes are special, but this one does feel, for me in particular, special, and I believe for many of the community members in the Big Life Magic Makers. For today, Season 3, Episode 8, we are going to welcome to the magical stage our Moon Queen, our elder, Loretta Jo. So in the Big Life Magic Makers, there's this amazing diverse community. And our elder, Loretta Jo, has been with us since the doors opened. Loretta Jo today is 83. When she first walked through those doors, I think she was just about to turn 80. She can let us know when she comes on board here with us. But within our community, Loretta Jo has very comfortably taken this place as our elder. And I say comfortably, like not actually demanding in any way or needing any acknowledgement, just being there with us. And we all, as a community of women, have honoured this space, honoured her as our Moon Queen. And so when we're here in this season, all season long, I'm talking about the evolution of your story. You have to get to the chapter where you ask for the wisdom from the elder, in my opinion. And so today we are going to be hearing from Loretta Jo and her evolved magical story. We don't know where we're going to go yet, but we know that we are about to be the lucky ones to hear the wise words of an elder who's been studying the moon for a really long time. So let's all welcome our magic maker, our elder, Loretta Jo Lunetta. Hello, my darling.
Hello. And Charlie.
And Charlie.
He wouldn't miss a moon.
Charlie is also with us
event.
in all of our events. Yeah, he never misses any of the moon events. He never misses any of the events in the magic community. Or if he does, we tend to ask, hey, where's Charlie?
Oh, yes. I got scolded once, I think, because he was misbehaving, and I went, out you go. Well, not
that's
out,
right.
But in time out, and I was told to bring him back in. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So you and Charlie have been members of our community since the community began, but I want to begin in this way with you, Loretta Jo.
Mm-hmm.
You're now reaching out beyond our community, who knows you well, into the global Big Life Magic community. Welcome. And I want you to share, please, because this is what I ask for all women who come onto the podcast. All the women invited into the You Are the Magic podcast are women who are living a big life and making the magic happen. So Loretta Jo, share with us about the magic that you create and share with the world.
First, Charlie is kind of undressing me, slipping things around, and that's all right. I know it's, yes. Okay.
He just wants to take the stage.
Yes, he does. What my magic is, my magic has changed, and actually, you actually changed my whole vision of what magic is. We talked about this right at the beginning, which we may get to, but my magic is, I believe, is as a helper, but in a different way than I was in my youth. I was always a helper. I was Don and I. But I was a helper because I knew that was the right thing to do. And I cared for the people, and I appreciated what I was doing, and I was helping, but I was hiding too. It was not from my soul, my help. I was doing the right thing, and I enjoyed it. But I have evolved. I am a helper now, a listener, but it's from within inside, from someone who loves themselves, who appreciates the value of myself. And so I know that the helping that I do now is much stronger, much better than it was before. So my magic has been and is finding myself and giving it out. How's that?
Oh, I could not agree more. I just could not agree more. So for everyone listening, let me just bring in a little bit around where Loretta Jo helps, not only in our community, these diverse, amazing women who we all come together in circles to, you know, connect with our spiritual practice and give ourselves a red hot go of getting the big life that we want. Not only there, but Loretta Jo is also a cuddler. Is for little babies in the NICU. Loretta Jo is also the helper in community gardens. Loretta Jo is also the helper within your family, within your neighborhood. Like there's so many places that you turn up Loretta Jo, and I don't call it the helper. I think that's beautiful language though. Like I've said to you more than once, it was like, I think that you're an earth angel. Like I really do think that. And I'm not saying it's like an ethereal being that, you know, like in a TV show that suddenly became human to help us all out. It's not like that kind of Disney movie, but I do believe that there are some people who the way that they come through in the world is, like you're saying, to actually really help, like to share, help, love, light, all of it. But it's interesting how you said it shifted for you when you learned how to love yourself. I think that's also a beautiful message, Loretta Jo. Like the power in loving ourselves. Yeah. So when Loretta Jo and I first met, it was in a Zoom room. It was early 2021. I think it might have even been like the January of that year, if not the February. It was really early. So in the United States, it was cold and dark. And I was offering, as I do, the new moon circles. And everyone pops in from all over the world, and there's Loretta Jo. And the first time I saw you popping in, I was like, curious. Hello, I'm curious. And then we connected after that moon circle, and we've been connected ever since. But this is what I'm interested in because I can't remember. I know I would have asked it at the time, but I actually can't remember today, Loretta Jo. What inspired you to find Big Life Magic on Eventbrite and come to a new moon circle with a whole heap of strangers? Like, what was the inspiration, or what drew you to do that?
Two answers. Number one, I don't know exactly, except guidance of some sort, maybe. But as you briefly mentioned, I've sort of been a moon person, partly because of my husband, who is an astronomer, traveled, and we may get into this, but he started the practice of wherever he was in the world, he'd look up at the moon. And for us, the moon was we didn't understand necessarily the spiritual aspect of it, but it was physical, the energies of the sun and the moon and the earth all together. But then he would, whatever phase it was in, it didn't really matter, he'd throw his love up to the moon, and then he'd say, moon, send my love down to my family, and we were wherever else. And then we would look up at the moon, and we would receive his love and throw it back to him and back. And we had this, and we did this for years and years and years, and somewhat, and still continue to do that. And at that time, in 2020, 21, I was like at 4 years or so of grieving, which I am now changing from. I didn't do it very well. I just did it apparently my way. But at that time I was feeling I'm not doing this grieving very well, but I don't understand. And there's this moon stuff. And somehow I was online, which I didn't do a lot of. And it just popped up. It just somehow came. I don't know what I pushed or anything, but it was like this moon magic circle. And I thought, oh, I guess I can use some moon magic. I have no idea. So it's a double answer. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I got guidance, and I pushed the button, and I'm staring like this, and there's these women, and they're sort of looking at me like, who are you? And the rest is now history. Here we are today.
And here we are today. And I want to pick up on the guidance, because it's not there on the Eventbrite at all. It's not there in anything that you would have read. You didn't know that I am also somebody who specializes in grief transformation.
That's correct.
You did not know that a big grief story is also a part of my story. There's no way you could have known that. It's nowhere near the advertising for this moon circle. So I also do believe there is a sense of guidance that drew you there, you know.
Oh,
and this is before Big Life Magic actually had an established community. Like, I didn't actually open the Big Life Magic Makers for another year. And so this is when we would come together only for new moon, really. So I honestly believe that there is some guidance and alignment happening there for you to arrive with us. And how lucky are we that you did arrive, and then that we got to stay. So in this whole season, I'm talking about this evolution of our stories. And you've mentioned it a little bit already when you spoke about being a helper when you were younger, but it was being the helper helped you because it helped you to hide. And then you evolved into loving yourself more and then being, the helper for others. But there's so much more to you, Loretta Jo. So I just want to invite here, when we first met, you were in, a significant chapter of your grief journey where, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were in a chapter where you were like, I'm ready for this to move now. I'm ready for this to show me something else, which I think happens to a lot of people, particularly around after the third year. It's time to shift in the grief journey because, hey, spoiler alert, your grief journey doesn't end. It just evolves, which is what's happened with you. So, Loretta Jo, what would you like to share with us around this important chapter in your life, or even past chapters around your beautiful beloved Don and his passing and your journey and how that has evolved you?
Okay, just briefly, those who know, Don and I met when I was 10 and he was 11. We were friends, strictly friends for many, many years. I was rather silent. He was boisterous. He was the man of campus, so forth. Not a match that generally people would think of. He graduated from high school early. He wanted to be in the Air Force. He was signed up in the Air Force. He was in the reserves. He was home up to visit his girlfriend, probably others there too, up in the mountains. And he was in his Volkswagen convertible, which was a baby blue, and it had a dragon painted around the side of it. Oh, it was so cool. And he was on his way up to the mountains in California, probably going about 70, 75 miles an hour. And he went into the third lane of what my father used to call suicide highways, which had 3 lanes in the middle lane. And there was a DeSoto. And I don't know if any of you know what a DeSoto is, but it's like a tank car dead in the middle of the road. And he smacked into it. Now, they all say that the beer that was filled in the front of the car saved his life because it caused a compression. I've gathered it was quite a mess, but it saved his life. He was unconscious for 3 days, and he swore to his passing day that while he was unconscious, angels came and told him he was to marry Jo Abbott. Well, that was me. We had never dated. He dated all kinds of the rich girls and the beautiful girls and the this and that and so forth. Never. And he decided maybe he should take me to a movie or something. We should go out a couple of times before he asked me to marry him, of which he did. And about 7 months later or so, we were married. I had just turned 19. He just turned 21. And we went off to Denver, and our lives were, but that was a guidance. And he swore, and so we had guidance there. Where was I going with this? I was going, spiritual journey, I think. Where was I going with this? Spiritual journey.
So I just, opened up around this beautiful introduction to you and Don. Okay. So let me just ground it for a minute, Loretta Jo. What year did you and Don get married? What year was that?
1960.
1960. So everyone just like bringing that in. It's the 1960s. And Loretta Jo's 19. You're now married to Don, the man who you've known since you were 10. But you never imagined that you were going to be his wife. Nor did Don. It was the angels who said so. And in your beautiful life, you and Don were married for how many years, Loretta Jo?
56.
56 years. I'm 50 this year. That's longer than my life. I've only been married for a couple of years, and I can already say congratulations, 56 years. That is, you must have learned so much about love in that 56 years.
You do. You also learn, it's not, those are not all bells and whistles and angels. I mean, singing. I mean, I think the angels were singing. We just didn't hear them. There were times, difficult times, both financial and emotional. But you need to learn to compromise, to adjust, to sometimes just stamp your foot and walk out of the room for the moment, because your partner knows you're coming back.
Yeah.
But you just need to walk away for a few minutes. Both him to me. I mean, so there's a lot of learning process. We were 3 or 4 different people during that whole session. You change. You're a different person. And sometimes those people didn't quite get along quite as well as they did when they were another. But then you evolve, because you're evolving. So, I mean, that's what life is about. It's not stagnant. It's continuing, and you just need to learn to accept certain things. You can't go in a relationship knowing you're going to change anything, because that's just not going to work. So you have to go with acceptance and understanding. And we both worked on that to get together. And there were times when it wasn't so pretty, but most of the time, the majority, the overall aura of the relationship was very blessed.
Yeah, and you were also blessed with children.
We had 5, and another young woman who joined our family as a teenager. We like to call her our daughter also, and her family. So yes, we were very blessed.
So many blessings, until the day that doesn't seem like a blessing and Don gets a diagnosis.
Yes, with glioblastoma. And also, I'm going to just say, during that time, spiritually, we were also kind of spiritual. I believed in spirits and gods and Jesus and so forth. And we were married as Catholics. Then we were involved in an ashram for 15 years, a spiritual medication. So I had a really strong belief, and that was another thing. Sometimes when things got really bad, we just kind of held our breath, because we knew it was going to be okay. But right now it was really bad. I always believed that. And when Don got diagnosed, well, of course, the first thing is you have the work that you need to do. And we had a family, and we all got together, and we cared for him at home so much of the time. But of course, he was in the hospital quite often. And he passed away at home. That's a whole nother story. Beautiful. But spiritually, it was like, okay. But then he and I hugged and cried, and I thought I had grieved together, the two of us together. He knew I was going to move from New York to New Hampshire, and he said, honey, I'll find you the perfect house, because I'll have a better view. Now that's an interesting statement, but it's a statement we both believed together. Took him 7 months, but other than that, he did a really perfect job. As you have
he
said,
may have been busy. He may have been busy in spirit.
As you said, things don't always just happen when you want. You have to be patient.
True.
So anyway, so when he passed, I thought I had grieved. We had grieved together. The kids had been there. They were there singing when he passed, blah, blah, blah. And I thought angels would sing, and we would just dance around and go on, and with the blessings of knowing he was now at peace and so forth. No.
That's not what happens next in the story, is it?
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
I lost my faith, because why? We had plans. He was brilliant. He was funny. Why him? It wasn't supposed to be that way. And also, I just didn't know what to do because I hadn't ever thought. I thought about the fact that he would be without me, and I needed to make sure that finances were a little bit together and that sort of thing, because he was terrible with finances. But his family had longevity. His family lived into their 90s, some of them, not his mother and father, but his grandparents. My family, none of them had even made 60. So it wasn't expected. I just expected him to go on. But anyway, long story, but 3 years before I really began to get a hold of myself. And then I connected with you just about at 4 years. I was sort of getting better, but I just didn't understand. And we're doing the moon love thing, and I'd go outside and I'd look at the stars, and I love being outside, but I hadn't connected yet all of that. And the understanding that we have a purpose when we arrive. And when we're done, it's time for us to go.
Yeah.
He had done what he needed to do, but I had more to do. And what I had to do was discover myself. I had always been a wife, a mother, an employee, an employer, and I'm not belittling that. That was great, but I did not know myself at all.
Yeah.
And what I have discovered with your guidance, who I am, and that has been wonderful. And Don
and we're going to get there.
Yeah,
and he's there cheering on.
He truly is cheering on.
Yeah. So I just want to bring this forward, like with your permission, Loretta Jo, if I can share with the audience, like one of the very early questions that you asked me, which I remember, like viscerally remember to this day, when we're first getting to know each other and you're telling me about Don's passing and I'm asking how you are, et cetera, et cetera. And then you said to me, I don't know why I'm here.
Right.
And it wasn't like, I want to leave the planet, I don't know why I'm here. It wasn't that devastation type of question. There was a genuine curiosity in you. Like, what am I still doing here? I thought Don was going to stay and I was going to go first. Like all of that. And you had this genuine, like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
And so I remember saying back to you, what an excellent question. Let's find out. And that was the beginning of our journey, of you actually having this really honest moment with yourself. It's like, I actually don't know what I'm doing here. Like, what is this chapter for me? And this is where, everybody following along at home, this is where your evolved story starts to actually widen. When you start to ask these questions of yourself and you actually don't know what the answer is, but you're willing to go on the curious journey, because that was you, Loretta Jo. You were willing to go on the curious journey. That's why you ended up in that moon circle. You could have seen that guidance. The angels could have lined it all up for you, and you could have been like, no, they're strangers, or I'm not getting on Zoom tonight. You could have had any reason to not connect, but you did. And then asking that question, I don't know what I'm doing here. I wasn't meant to be the one left behind. So please, what would you like to share with us about this evolution over the last few years, while you have been connected with me and the Big Life Magic Makers and working through this question? What am I doing here?
So just a bit before I met you, I closed our house with my children were fantastic during this illness, but I had to get rid of like 3/4 of everything we owned because I was moving, and that's a whole process so I had come up to New Hampshire. 2 of our children live within a half hour to an hour of where I live. I was trying to get kind of in the middle. But I didn't know anybody else, and I didn't want to know anybody else. I was totally, I quilted, made several quilts, gave quilts away also them, but I didn't sit around and mope and eat bonbons, as much as I do love bonbons, but they're not good for me. But I wasn't meeting people. I wasn't interested in meeting people, which is another reason, the interest of what am I doing pushing a button? I didn't really even think about it. I just pushed moon magic. Oh yeah, magic. But it just clicked something. Okay, I'm a moon person. I know we're moon family. Last name is Lunetta, people. That means little moon in Italian, and he did not change his name. It's what he was born with. So I don't know other than guidance to push that, because I would not have done that voluntarily. And so I then started, the first thing I started to do was I decided to get some education. Although I have had a college degree, which I got, by the way, when I was 42. It's a whole nother story. And I was interested in the brain. So I started to take courses from Dartmouth, Osher Education, which is for senior education, on neuroscience in the brain. Do you know this is a fascinating function up here? It's fascinating spiritually, and it's fascinating physically, neurologically. I mean, and how they even figured it out. How did they figure it out? That when you look, Picasso comes in, it comes back to the head as Picasso, it goes, comes out, and then it comes out to here, and it looks like supposedly what we're really looking at. I don't even know how they figured that out, but it's fascinating. I found that so interesting. And then I started to look at volunteering. I'd looked at cuddling in New York, but they weren't doing it because at Dartmouth because of the pandemic, but they did need helpers at the Palliative Hospice Center, which I go every Saturday now. And I'm a listener and a baker. Sounds kind of interesting and weird, but they have this beautiful center, and they have what's called the family kitchen. And that's where families can come in and out of. And they just like to have someone there who listens. I'm not a counselor. I'm not a guide. I'm a listener. And I bake things. Like last Saturday, I made plain molasses cookies, molasses raisin cookies, oatmeal cookies, and oatmeal cookies with raisins and chocolate chips. So they like that. And I'm just baking, and they're coming. Some people want to talk. Some people don't. That's fine. I'm just there. We're just, and then a year ago, I decided to start playing the flute. I played the cello in my younger years, and my husband played the flute. And it's now a year, and what it opened up inside of me as things were opening up, it opened up of something I had closed, which was the actual creation of music. I listen to music all the time, but I'd forgotten the joy. And I think maybe I'm going in the right direction, but I'm not quite sure. So that was my progression of doing all that and realizing, doing the mirror work, which I knew about for many years, but all I knew about on the mirror work mostly was you needed to love yourself and look at yourself. And it's not always easy to look at yourself, but I really started to work on just looking at myself, and I started to honor myself. And that all of that kind of worked together with what we were talking about and you were talking about. And trapeze yoga got somehow.
Yeah. Well, look, everybody, 2 nights ago, I'm like laying out on my bed, reading my novel, completely surrendered to the day. Loretta Jo sends me some pictures of herself in her trapeze, because she's been to trapeze yoga after being at the NICU huddling babies. And I was like, I've got a lot to learn from this woman. Maybe I need to get out of the bed and move my body. I didn't. I kept reading my novel. But Loretta Jo, what I want to share here is, look at that amazing shift from, I didn't want to connect to people. And this happens to a lot of us, whether it's like a big life loss has come, or a big hurt or a trauma that we're processing in. There's definite chapters in our own healing journeys where it's deeply intimate. And some people will also shut themselves away sometimes because it's too hard. to be connected. But then as you did start to connect with our community and you and I connected and we started to work on your heart repair and you shared more stories of Don and I shared stories of my son Sage, who also his purpose was done. That's when I think your purpose really started to come out. Because I remember when you said, oh, I've enrolled, I'm going to study neuroscience. And I was like, yes, she is. It was like, oh, that cuddling thing I've wanted to do for years, that's happening now. I'm going to the training. Yes, you are. You know, like, and it all just kind of, it naturally came out of this desire of wanting to connect in a different way. But let's go back to that question, which was, what am I doing here? Right. So now, would you, like, I want to throw it back to you again, Loretta Jo. At the top of the episode, you said, my magic is being a helper. Is that how you define your purpose now? Or have you got some other wisdom around why you're here, why you get all these amazing chapters after Don has, you know, exit stage left, gone up to spirit to hang out with his family, the ancestors, maybe shake hands with my son Sage, who knows? Mm-hmm. But what do you now know about that question? Why am I still here?
Okay, I'm going to just
What do you know about that?
Okay, I had a vision once, several months ago, maybe a year or so ago, of Sage and my husband sitting down, looking up at the moon and sending their love. I meant to tell you, I know I never told you that.
You didn't tell me that, but I love it.
Yeah. Okay. The purpose was, I think, if I had passed away and at some point, I feel that my purpose for having been born here, I think I did a fairly good job. Did I make mistakes? Oh my goodness, I've made so many mistakes along the way. I wish I could give up. I wished I could end. And that whole forgiveness thing sometimes gets a little complicated. But I think that somehow I would have been a bit peaceful saying, I was good. Things were good. But now I understand the real value of who I am, who I was, and how strong I was without realizing it in very many situations from childhood on up. The strength that was there with my soul and my angel guides, who I always felt were kind of there but didn't understand as much as I do now, I hope. I think it was very important while I was still in this phase of my evolution to actually understand and value myself. And hopefully this will also help my children seeing, you know, they're great, but you know, there were mistakes made along the way with them, and you know, but they seem to be all fine. But hopefully it helps the family, but that it's just part of the evolution that when I then do pass, which could be years from now, could be tomorrow, do we know? I may have a lot more things to do. Maybe because I mean, with the kids, I mean, stories of yesterday, but I'm just there with them. And I'm hoping that there's something in me that can help them, because most of the children that I see, of course, are having difficulties in various ways. Because I in the pediatric.
Just to be clear, the children you're talking about are the
I have two in the mornings. Right? In the mornings on Tuesdays, I'm in the ICO unit of pediatrics, so I'm with older children. From like 1 year to up to actually 16. Like yesterday.
Well, I didn't realize that.
Yes, so I'm in with them first, and then I go from there. I'm there for about 2.5 hours. Then I go from there to NICU unit. and cuddle babies. Yesterday, I had this little girl, 2 months old, 3.5 pounds. She was born at 1 pound. She was full. She just cuddled right here on this well-used little breast and just sunk in. So yes, I have the older kids in the morning and I do cuddle in the afternoon of the babies.
Ah, it's so beautiful. And yes, and I think it's not just the babies, Loretta Jo. Like when we can see someone in our presence actually turn up for themselves and figure out, how do I genuinely love myself? Not like the self-love that's sold, randomly on the internet or thrown around Instagram or Facebook, but the actual real, I figured it out, how to appreciate myself. Because this is, I think, a lesson that we're all here for, no matter your family dynamic, no matter what your age is. So I think you are like helping others to see that no matter what stage you're in, no matter what age you're in, there's always a love lesson for us to learn. There's always a part of ourselves that can evolve. And I know that you inspire so many of the members. I mean, I'm going to say it, probably all of the members of the Big Life Magic Makers, just in you being you, the same of like you being sitting with us in whether it's a moon circle or a masterclass or a special guest. And often that one thing that you say either makes us to laugh, helps us to reflect, helps us to let go of things we're taking way too seriously in our younger year, because we're not in our elder established 80s yet. So share with us now about being the elder of our community. What does that mean for you and what's that like?
Well, first, Deborah, I want to say that the community has been really important to me in ways that probably no one understands, but maybe you all do, because you may all have the same delight. It's diverse. I love the diversity of the community, which I just think is wonderful. And the souls, it's a time when the souls just kind of really truly come together and offer comfort. And even just being there, sometimes I don't say anything. A lot of times people don't say anything, but I just know that they're getting comfort and wisdom and knowledge, depending on what we're talking about. Like, oh, that's really interesting. And I can see that. So the community is, and my kids all know I'm part of the moon. They say, oh, I said, oh, I'm doing the moon group. They oh, the moon group. Oh, yeah. So, and they love the full moon things that I do, which is really what the family does. And
yeah.
So I just find that I honor all the women in the group. They're wonderful. Yes, I have been through a lot of what they've gone through, but there's a lot of things I haven't gone through. But I also just know that the process of aging, the process of learning, the process of coping, the process of understanding or just letting go helps you get to your fabulous 80s, when, as Louise Hay said when she turned 80, it was going to be her best decade yet. So
yeah,
how was that? Did it make sense?
Yeah, that's beautiful. That, of course, that made sense, because you make sense, my moon queen. You make sense. You make a lot of sense. And what I'm loving here is outside of our community, people are starting to get a glimpse into the value you have in our community and the diversity within our community and all of the amazing souls in our community. Because this is something I've realized, more recent than right at the beginning. Like, the magic is secondary. Like, yes, we might talk about what's happening with a particular new moon, or I might hold an intuition class, or we talk about connecting with angels. Yes, we're talking about all of that. And we're doing like sound healings and breath work. Like, we're playing in the magical realm. But all of that is secondary to the value of the women turning up. And this is what I also love, Loretta Jo, is it's got nothing about how old you are, where you live, the job you have, the job you don't have, whether you had kids, whether you didn't have kids, whether you're married, divorced, single. Like, none of that actually matters. What matters is that you turn up and you're there. And one of the values that we have in our community, which is going to be a keeper, is everybody calls themselves into the circle, and you say your name, you say where you're calling in from around the world, and then you answer a prompt around whatever we're talking about. Because, and I started doing that right from the beginning, because I really do have a strong value that everyone is seen, valued, and heard, like visible, you know? And yeah, I could now go on and on and on about our amazing community. If anyone's listening and you're wanting to hear more about the community, please connect with me. We invite you to come join us at one of our events. You get some more Loretta Jo as well if you join the community. Now, just before we start to move towards final steps for our amazing, beautiful episode, I just want to open up. Is there anything that you want to share now that you're in this bigger circle? Like, this is like the, you know, a magic circle wrapping around the world, Loretta Jo. Like, is there anything that you feel inspired, or that you wish the world knew, like from your amazing, esteemed 83-year-old throne as our moon queen? Is there anything you want to share?
Mostly have faith in yourself. Have faith that if you are relaxed and are willing to listen to whatever it is, those of you who journal, I'm not a journaler, but those who do journal, you get it through your journaling. Sometimes you'll write things that maybe you are surprised about. But I think having faith in yourself and knowing that you can heal yourself, both physically and emotionally. And emotional health helps physical health. If we emotionally just knock ourselves or our hairs, or think of constant things that were wrong or bad or did to us, or those are just really wastes of energy. They're there, yes, but they don't have to be your prime life living, feeling experiences.
I can feel that one land with me. I know that I am still learning that one, Loretta Jo, around like, just make some space. Make some space around the things you're working through. Yeah. What a beautiful message, everybody. Let's add a little faith, because the Moon Queen says, have a little faith in you. So all episodes of You Are the Magic are dedicated. And before we move to the dedication, I just want to say again, if you are interested in the Big Life Magic Makers, check the link below. We would love to invite you into our community. There are live events that we have, but there's also a lot of members of our community who also connect via replays or in different ways. So wherever you are in the world, there is space for you. I would love for you to stay connected to the community and to me, because we believe that together the magic amplifies. And so now, Loretta Jo, we're going to give you the final beat. I'm going to invite you now. Every episode of You Are the Magic is dedicated. And when I have a guest, the dedication is in their hands. So before we officially complete this episode, Loretta Jo, will you please share our episode 8 of season 3 dedication?
Yes. I dedicate this to family and a particular special member of my family, Charlie.
Mm.
Yes, little Charlie, the little cockatiel. Charlie was Don's bird. He and Don had bonded as mates. He would have nothing to do with me. I'd go near him and he'd go, like a big. After Don's diagnosis of the glioblastoma, Don is the one that realized that Charlie knew something was wrong with the left side of his brain. Because for a few months before we knew, Charlie used to peck at his head. He'd pull his hair. He'd pull his ear. He'd pull his glasses. And Don would say, "Oh, Charlie, that's okay. Move him over here." And Charlie would run back over him. Peck. As Don failed, Charlie started to withdraw. And we thought, and there were times that he would just lay in the corner of his house or cage. We called his house. On his side with his wings slightly lifted apart and look just like a dead bird. When we'd go up to the cage and say, "Oh, Charlie, Charlie, Charlie," he would leap up and get really fierce looking and dive right towards the front again, just peck and attack. We didn't understand. And we were expecting the possibility of when Don passed, that Charlie would pass. Don passed at home, as I mentioned earlier. And we got Charlie and we put him on Don's hands. And Charlie just sat there for a couple of hours, very silently. We took him to the vet a couple of weeks later because Charlie was very lethargic and I wasn't sure if there was anything we were going to be able to do. And the vet said that the birds mate for life. And when I lost my mate, Charlie lost his. She said that we would develop a relationship, but it would be strictly on Charlie's terms. Well, she was absolutely right. Charlie, excuse me, just a little nose wipe. Charlie and I have grown together in the past 8 years. It's hard to believe it's 8 years. He comforts me when I get sad. He kisses my cheek, as he might do right now, when spontaneous tears come down my cheek. When someone always asked who Charlie was, I would tell them that he was Don's bird. Now, I can't whistle. I can only spit. So our communications were a little iffy. He would eat from my hand and he'd sit on my shoulder. 2 years ago, Charlie got very, very sick. He was in oxygen for 18 hours. He had medications that he took, or we gave him, but had that neighbor came over and helped for over 2 weeks. And he recovered. And I took him and I looked at him and I said, "Charlie, you could have easily passed away." He was struggling so to breathe. I said, "You could easily have passed away, but you struggled and you survived and you're here and we're back together. You know what? You want to be with me. You want to be here." The acknowledgement of the fact that, yes, Charlie was Don's bird, but now actually Charlie was my bird and he was here for me, changed our relationship dramatically. Just shows how acknowledging something positive and visualizing something positive makes it happen. Now, somewhere I sidetracked there. And it was really sort of sad that he had to die practically in order for me to understand what he probably knew all along, that he was here for me. When I decided to start learning the flute about a year ago, my goal was not to join a group or become a wonder virtuoso, but to get good enough that Charlie would sing with me when I played the flute, like he did with Don. Well, it's taken a while, but there are many times when I do a little proper toodle-a-toot and he sings and we sing and whistle together. So I dedicate this episode of personal growth and acceptance to Charlie, my bird.
Oh, Loretta Jo. Charlie, Charlie, Charlie. How do you feel, Charlie? You just got a beautiful dedication for the
He says,
love
of
that you
course I
give.
did.
And
He knows
you know,
it all.
Loretta Jo, I'm loving that. You know, there's so much gifting that you gave us in that dedication. But what's with me now is that, you know, just acknowledging something positive, even when you think that it's over, that this relationship's not going to work, acknowledging something positive, and things can turn around for you. People can like reconnect, and we can find our way back together. What a beautiful dedication. Loretta Jo, I have absolute deep love for you and Charlie. I thank you so much for being with me and our whole community across the world today in sharing about loving yourself and being curious about your own evolution, and just to continue to find your way. It's an inspiration for us all, no matter where you are on your journey. One day, maybe you're going to be 83 going to trapeze yoga after you've been hugging some teenagers and some babies and working in the garden. Maybe that's your thing just before you go to a moon circle with the Big Life Magic Makers. This is all possible because Loretta Jo and Charlie are showing us the way.
Mm-hmm.
A big deep breath in, my friends. There is so many gems, so many gifts in this episode. Again, Loretta Jo, I just can't even with how much I love you and
I
respect
love you too. Oh, thank you. You've been such a guide to me. Thank you.
Let's continue to guide ourselves towards more fun and more of our evolution and more love and more time with our soul sisters.
And a little more dancing.
Everybody take in a big deep breath now. Honor yourself and some more dancing. Go and dance it out, my friends. Honor yourself. Do whatever you need to do today to move a little bit closer to a deeper love with yourself. One of the gifts that Loretta Jo has given us today. Breathe it in, believe it to be true, because it is, my friends. It is you. You are the magic.